Two Brown Envelopes. How to Shrug Off Setbacks, Bounce Back from Failure, and Build a Global Business. By Hazem Mulhim. Narrated by David H. Lawrence, the 17th. To my parents, Lila and Muhammad, who made me the man I am. Introduction. The day my father invited me to his office in Kuwait and showed me two brown envelopes is a day I will never forget. I was 20 years old at the time, and although I didn't know it then, it was the crucial turning point in my life, the fork in the river when I could have traveled in any number of directions. As I sat before him, waiting to be spoken to, I wondered what was inside those envelopes on his desk. One seemed fuller than the other. I soon found out, and what I did next after I left my father's office determined the rest of my life. All these years later, I still get a momentary flashback when I'm suddenly back in that office with my father and those two brown envelopes. This happened most vividly when I was strolling through the streets of Tokyo with a friend a few years ago. It was May, and although the cherry blossom season had passed, there was nevertheless a great national celebration. Everywhere I looked, I noticed there were hundreds of little flags fluttering in the wind. They each bore the distinctive features of a fish. I wondered why. I assumed the fish was salmon and celebrated the Japanese fondness for sushi. Rather intrigued, I asked my friend, "Why are there flags with salmon flying from every pole?" He laughed and put me right. The fish was not salmon, but carp. And the flags, or rather windsocks, were koinobori, carp streamers, and they celebrated Golden Week, the longest Japanese holiday. The carp was chosen because it is respected for its strength, its spirit, and its perseverance, swimming against the fast-flowing stream, just like salmon. Somehow, in my mind, the brightly colored koinobori intertwined with the two brown envelopes. From the day I stepped outside my father's office, I have found myself swimming against the tide. It is, I think, the defining feature of the entrepreneur. And it is to describe what it takes to be an entrepreneur that I have written this book. I am not a famous billionaire entrepreneur like Bill Gates or Elon Musk. In fact, you have probably never heard of me, unless, of course, you happen to run one of the 800 financial institutions that use the compliance, risk management, cybersecurity, and anti-money-laundering services of the company I founded nearly 40 years ago. So why, you may ask, should you listen to me? Why should you bother reading this book? My story is, ultimately, a story of success. Those 800 financial institutions, headquartered in the United States, Middle East, Europe, and Asia, constitute almost 10% of the world's banks. I started out as a shop owner, opening the first computer store in Jordan in the early 1980s, when I was still in my 20s. From those relatively humble beginnings, I evolved my business, moving out of computer sales and into software services, with operations not only in Jordan but also Dubai, Egypt, and Turkey. Today, my business is spread across Europe, the Middle East, and the United States, and my clients are spread around the world. But if, when summarized in a paragraph, my business has been on an ever-growing trajectory, the reality is somewhat different. My story is also a story of the downs as well as the ups. Failure is a touchy subject for many business leaders. It is seen as a sign of frailty, a mark of weakness. But in my view, failure is an occupational hazard of an entrepreneur's life. If you haven't failed, you haven't lived, and you certainly can't hope to succeed.
Sample complete. Ready to continue?